The internet is extremely upset about these photos. Some people really like them, some people think that they're ethically wrong, and some people have no idea what on earth I'm talking about. I'm usually in the last group. Turns out there's a lot more to these photos than you might see initially, so let's unpack it, then decide for ourselves if this is fine and dandy or if this should get you #cancelled. To explain, I follow this account on Instagram called Sporarts, which is kind of like sports photography, but more artsy and funky. I find it really inspiring, and a little while ago I saw these photos of the Olympic figure skater Alyssa Liu when she was having her viral moment, and I thought that these were great. They're grungy and different, and they're not the exact same 400mm f2.8 shots that we're kind of used to seeing from the Olympics at this point. To be honest, I found them quite refreshing. A lot of sports photography can be a bit too professional or kind of documentary style for me. But what I didn't know at the time was that the photographer, a Matthew Johnson, shot these in his house, pointing his camera at his television. Matthew wasn't actually at the Olympics, so you can see how some people maybe felt a little uneasy about that. But turns out taking pictures through a TV screen isn't exactly a new idea, and neither is being obsessed about it. Back in ye olde days, that is 1974, another photographer took photos of television screens. You might have heard of him, Harry Gruyaert. No big deal, he's just a magnum photographer and one of the greatest and most influential color photographers of all time. In fact, he also shot photos of a television screen with the Olympics on it. And believe it or not, I also think that these are quite cool. I really like the look of these photos, and I think it's really interesting to look at them after such a long time has passed. But not everyone agreed with me back in the 70s though. Some people reckoned it was disrespectful towards the TV culture, whatever that means, and some other people thought that it was disrespectful towards press photography and photographers. Of course, that's understandable if you only think about it for a few seconds. This feels like cheating, maybe. But I think that if you look at the work for a little bit longer and see some more photos from the same series, it becomes clear that part of the artistic intention is to ask us questions about what the TV does to reality. And as well as all of the, pretentious art stuff, both Matthew and Harry made some images that are genuinely quite striking and aesthetically interesting. I just think that some of them look really cool. It would also look really cool if you went somewhere down there and clicked on the subscribe button. After Matthew Johnson's photos had a bit of a viral moment earlier this year, a lot of people started to jump on the trend, which I think is maybe where the problem began. Here's some more photos shot of sports on a TV by Louis Burkert, not sure. Except this time the caption is maybe a bit misleading. Fine, I get that. But there's been a lot of commentary online about how taking photos through your TV screens is wrong and evil. And then there's been some other comments that have been justifying it in ridiculous ways and getting the whole thing a little bit upside down. Neither you or I are qualified to say whether or not this is good art. I think most people will like some of them and not like some of them. The strange part, I think, is when the comments section reckons it's qualified to say if something is ethical or not. I think, understandably, right now, a lot of us are extra sensitive to having our work stolen or appropriated by somebody else, i.e. the AI overlords. And that's fair enough, but that's exactly the opposite of what's going on here. So some of the comments online have been really outraged at the idea of a photographer shooting photos of their TV because there's another camera operator controlling the camera that's broadcasting the TV signal. And so in their mind, you didn't really take the photo, which on the one hand, fine, you might be uncomfortable with that, but I don't think that it's inherently wrong. I don't think it's as much stealing as it is adding to the conversation. I mean, if you look at music, a lot of songs chop chunks out of other songs and then use them. Some songs even use the entire hook or chord structure of another song. I don't think that photography gets a special exemption for remixing. Maybe you disagree, and that's absolutely fine, but I think that a big part of what makes art special is that it's a dialogue, a back and forth between the artist and the audience and other artists. So to me, I see this as more like adding to the conversation mostly. If you think it's the photographic equivalent of the kid who says your joke louder so that the whole class laughs, that's fine too, but maybe You should have said your joke louder in the first place? I don't know. Also, depending on the photo, some of these are genuinely transformative and quite interesting. The goal of sports broadcast television is not to be art, but these photos don't have to be information first, aesthetic second. If you think about it, I don't think I would ever take a screenshot of ESPN and put that on my wall, you know what I mean? But it actually gets weirder than that. Some people have tried to turn this into a class thing, like a rich versus poor thing, because it's true that it is really difficult to get access to photograph prestige sports events like this, and the gear that you need is like ridiculously expensive. But I really don't think that that's the right way to be looking at this. This is the best we can do isn't usually a sentence people say about innovative and challenging art. It's a cop-out, and I think it really dilutes what's going on here. Yes, if you're poor, you don't get access to photograph elite athletes at the Olympics. I don't get to either. That's just the way it is. I don't think that saying the TV photos are a substitute for IRL sports photography makes sense. It's a totally different creative process, style, and idea. I think that the photographing of the screen is interesting. It's intertextuality, it's remixing, it's interpretation, but there is definitely a lazy way to do it where you just do some black and white motion blur with lots of grain, and worse, there's a dishonest way to do it. If you claim that you were there or try to hide the fact that you shot through your TV, I don't necessarily think it makes the photos bad, but it does make you look like a bit of a dick. Plus, there's a big difference, I think, between photographing something like a live sporting event or a press conference and like a nature documentary. I feel like if I stuck a David Attenborough on telly and then photographed like the lions and stuff, then that would be somehow a little bit more dishonest than anything else. But what's really interesting about all of this is that it seems to be highlighting part of a bigger problem. All of the photos, like all the photos from really high-end fine art stuff right down to whatever your ex ate for breakfast yesterday, end up being shown to you mostly on the same apps on your phone. And what that does is it kind of removes a lot of the context from the photography, and it makes it harder to figure out what the intention is. Like, is it photography to show us what you saw, or is it trying to say something? Is it just for fun, or is it supposed to be serious, mustache-twirling art? We don't know. If we all got on the Magic School Bus together and went back to the 90s, we would know, because some photos would get handed to us by our friends. Some would be in magazines, and some would be in art galleries. The way a photo is delivered to us and what's around it would really help us to understand what the hell the whole point was. Sure, you might think that the TV photos are not the same flavor as the real life sports photos, and that's fine because it's probably true. But unfortunately, because all of the photos are lumped in together on Instagram with a white border and strategically chosen hashtags, it's basically impossible for us to know whether or not the photographer wants us to think he's just like a real sports photographer, or if the photographer wants us to think, how interesting, what a cool idea. But if you think that was controversial, wait until you hear about Jürgen Teller. He's kind of the king of pissing off the comment section with his photos, and you can learn all about him when you watch this video right here. Stay hydrated and create art.